The world is like God's garden, and God made you and everyone else to bloom in that garden and to be beautiful. And God made every one of you unique and special to be beautiful in your own way.
I've heard this said all weekend, and I thought it was really unique. It said, "This is not your time, you must return." Man, I said, no way. And I argued, and I perceived this light to be God. So I argued with God. And I said, no, I've got a family here I never knew. I'm feeling loved like I've never felt I was loved. I mean, I never knew when we're walking this life that we're loved. I mean, we are loved. I never knew that. And I didn't want to go back to that separation. I didn't want to go back to that body. And that body I knew was still in the ocean, being tumbled and tossed, was very broken, and was just cold. It was not something I wanted. Cold and confining. I didn't want to go back to that. I thought I presented a pretty good case. You can see I'm here. The light spoke one more time and said, no, you must return. You have a purpose. Oh, man, that word purpose just, went into my being. And when you're in that light, you're connected to this consciousness that's so much more than just yourself. You're connected. To me, it felt like you're connected to all the souls that ever were and all the souls that ever will be. And so you have this immense knowing. And I understood that purpose. And all the time, I'm thinking, God, I was in that light, and I understood this purpose. Purpose. Now I'm here. What is this purpose?
And then I ask him, well, since I can't stay, since I have to go back, can you tell me what everything is all about? Everything, the whole of creation, what is it all about? And he did tell me. And I'm sorry to tell you, I can't tell you. He told me, and it was so simple, it wasn't more than 3 or 4 sentences. I comprehended that totally. And I said, can I take all this back with me? Since I can't stay, can I take everything that I have learned back? Because there are so many people I want to tell this to. And he said, you may take everything back with you except the answer to the last question. And that you aren't going to be able to remember. And of course, that was the one about what is it all about.
How do I find my purpose in life? I have a very simple solution. As I told you, I'm a simple person. And so I like very simple solutions. Your only purpose is to be yourself. That's all. And all you have to do is be as you can be, shine your light as brightly as you can, and your purpose will unfold before you. Just allow life to unfold before you. And it's that simple. And it's much more important to be yourself than it is to even be positive.
I think that I do know what he was telling me, even though I can't, recall the actual 2 or 3 sentences. I know that it has to do with love. And I believe that it has to do with what I was enabled to see when he said, what is in your heart? And I looked inside myself and saw that I was perfect love. Now, that doesn't apply to just me. That applies to all human beings. That is what we are. That is our core. This perfection, this love, this godness. I believe that what it's all about is the world will keep turning and we will have all these experiences and it will go on forever and ever and ever as we learn to bring that into our consciousness and have it remain there all the time. Our connection with God, just there, not somewhere in our unconscious, but consciously aware all the time of who we really are. I think that's what the journey is.
What is your mission? What were you told your mission is?
I don't know. We all have missions. We're all not to know what they are because I was told that if I knew what my mission was, I would hurry up, rush out, and complete it so that I could get back.
It's pretty easy for me because it popped into my head like almost the moment that the light absorbed me. It was to experience unconditional love, to love unconditionally, and to experience accepting unconditional love from other people. So, and by unconditional love, I truly unconditional love to me means I'm loving you without expectation or exception. It makes no difference what you do to me. It makes no difference what happens. If I truly love you unconditionally.
The Christ asked me, he said, what did you learn from seeing all of these faces? And I said to him that love was the best choice. And he said, you're right. And I saw how I had to be careful how I treated people.
What was important were the choices that I made. And what was more important than just the choices that I made were my motivations and my intents and really the state of my heart in doing any single action. And I realized in this, because I experienced sort of in a holographic awareness that was rather instantaneous, how every action that one takes is like a stone cast in the water. And if it's loving, that stone, is cast in the water, and the loving action goes out and touches the first person that it's intended for, and then it touches another person, and then it touches another person, because that person interacts with other people, and so on and so on. And every action has a reverberating effect upon every single one of us on the face of this planet. So if I had committed a loving action, it was like love upon light. A purely loving action was the most wonderful thing that I could ever achieved in my life. This had more meaning than to have been a Rockefeller or President of the United States, or to have been, a great scientist and to have invented something just incredible. If I had committed a truly pure and loving action, it had reverberated throughout the stuff of every individual on that planet, and I felt that action reverberating through them and through myself. And I felt it in a way that is beyond what we can even feel ourselves on this plane of existence.
And on the way toward light, my actions came into my mind. Well, also my life. And I was given the opportunity to deal with my life. Or, better still, I had to address issues involving my life, and interestingly, all the things I was focused on in my life. I was an entrepreneur, and I had created a very successful enterprise in which I had invested a lot of time and energy. I also defined myself by how successful this enterprise had become, and how young I was when I had founded it, how many jobs I had generated, how valuable this enterprise was, and so on. But amazingly enough, all these things were entirely irrelevant in the light of these last few minutes before my possible death. But the questions I asked myself at that time were, how did I lead my life? What kind of employer was I? And what kind of colleague? What kind of father was I for my 3 children who were living at that time? By the way, I now have 6 children. So how was my conduct toward my siblings and my friends and my parents and so on?
Doesn't matter how successful you've been, how much money you've made, how many kids you've had, you know, what kind of a name you've made for yourself. What matters is, did I touch people? Did I allow them to touch me? Was I living a life of emotional well-being? You know, was I celebrating myself? Was I proud of me? You know, none of us get enough kudos in life. From our parents, none of us got loved the way we wanted to be loved. And that's the way it was set up. But we have the ability to love ourselves and make up the difference. And that's part of what our job is, you know, to be the highest vision of ourselves that we can be. Imagine what the world would be like if we were carrying that energy, as opposed to the insecure little people that we become. There wouldn't be wars. There wouldn't be people living without basic necessities. There wouldn't be strife. There would be love. There would be support. There would be passion in a good way. And that's what we're working towards, isn't it? To be the best and highest form of ourselves.
The purpose of life is, or to give our lives purpose. You know, to give our lives the purpose of life, the meaning in life is to give your life meaning. And what is that meaning? What is truly meaningful, you know? Is it the physical accumulation of things and awards and, you know, distinctions and whatnot? Or is it truly meaningful to serve humankind and to grow spiritually? I think that's really what we're here for.
And in that light, some of us are given a choice to come back and some are not. Some are spoken to and some are not. The stories and the details are all different, and the essential core learning and truth is similar. But in my case, I was spoken to by a voice I heard really well. And by the way, every time everyone's spoken to in the light by a voice is exactly the voice they need to hear, in exactly the language and exactly the tone that we need to hear. And I heard this voice say, Lewis, you are called here to have this conversation and to be sent back because you're not doing your work. In response to which I said, I surrender, take me, I'm yours, I will do your work. I must have been imagining I was being called to be a missionary of sorts. And I was told immediately, no, Lewis, it's not my work you need to do. It's your work. It's your work. It's your work. It's your work. We each are doing our own work, and I got it very clearly. It's your work you need to do, Lewis. Great. Tell me, what is my work? Here I was in a place where, since all truth is known, I expected the source of all truth to be able to make it easier for me. Didn't happen. Until I went deeper and got that in addition to the words that we're all one under God, I was also given the words that, well, noblesse oblige, you have more than others, so give back. And I went deeper and realized that with those gifts, I had created a feeling of a betterment, and that I had to help others who didn't have as much. And yet I started to discover loneliness, that even though I was told we're all one under God, my experience was, well, we may all be one under God, but somehow I and my tribe am better than you and your tribe. Woof. And the gap that created in me between my spirit and yours was so deep that I didn't know how to bridge it. So I was told, just like Amadeus was just like Mozart was in the movie Amadeus, when that perfect note was hit, there it is. I was told, there it is, Lewis, there's your work. And I was sent back down without any knowledge about how my life would change. And what happened was doors started to open. Another learning from another weakness of thinking that I could control what doors I wanted to open became that doors opened on their own and others closed on their own. And if I could just notice that, if each of us could just notice that, and then move through the doors that open and then use whatever skills we're given in this body and this life experiences to help co-create with the universe.
I think that there's a basic purpose that perhaps we all have. And this basic purpose is to remember that we're more than this physical form, and to remember that there's inspiration from that other realm, and to remember that this life is very short and that love is all that matters. If we do something with love, not are we loved, but do we add love to this world? Do we make someone's life better by doing something kind, by smiling at them, by helping them in some way, by being a support in their life, by helping others feel like they're part of a community, that they matter, that they have inspiration to move their own lives forward. If we can inspire people in some way to do that, then we're helping. But what is our purpose? When you see someone really on fire and just like in the zone, whether they're an athlete or whether they are creating a new business or whether they're excited about having a child or whether whatever it is that this person is really on fire about, then their soul must want that on some level. There's something that's pushing them forward. So don't overthink it. People go to a psychic or they go to someone and they say, what's my soul purpose? It's like, well, it's going to unfold for you. And you can find this more through meditation. So I believe that our higher self can look back and give us a little bit of a hint of what to do. And many times it's just to express the best version of yourself, maybe to transcend your own wounds or your ego at times, to go, you know what, I'm going to be calm in this situation. I'm going to be aware. I'm not going to react in a way that's going to cause pain to anyone. I'm going to remind them of their connection to something beyond themselves and my connection to something beyond myself. And we're going to be our highest and best selves in this moment. And when you're able to do that in times of difficulty, then you feel like, oh, I've touched my purpose. You know, I'm learning, I'm growing. So perhaps our souls are really on a mission here to remember who we are, to remember that we're light, to remember that we're love, to shine the light of who you are. And sometimes that light, it doesn't even have to be religious. It can just be a passion for music or for art or for film or for running or anything. You know, that if you have passion for life, then somehow you're connected to a light that's greater than yourself. And one of the things I do to stay motivated in my own life is I think about the end of my life, that future life review, and I think, what do I want to accomplish, and am I working towards that? And am I going to be excited about what I've done right now when I'm at the end of my life? And anytime I'm doing something to help others, because I know it's not about me. It's about the person watching this who is in hospice or just lost a kid or who is dying or is hurting. And if my message helps someone feel more at peace or feel more connected to nature or more connected to this idea that we go on and there's so much more magic out there than you could ever dream of, then I've helped people live a better life. So one of the things all people can do is think, this life goes by so quickly. What is it I'm doing right now in the middle of my life that's going to make me happy when I look back?
One thing that is fascinating is that all of the patients who go through this tell us that there is one thing that comes up to them as the most important feature in their life in these reviews. They say that it doesn't have anything to do with earthly success. No one asks them about their financial well-being or how much power they've had or any of these other things that our society suggests that we should be paying so much attention to. Every single person has told me that what they face were faced with there was the question of how they had learned to love and whether they had put this love into practice in their lives.
He said, love the person that you're with. And I said, okay, great, I'll do that. No problem. What do you want me to do? He said, that I just told you what I want you to do, love the person you're with. And I said, yeah, but after I do that, then what do you really want me to do? And he said, no, that is what I want you to do, is love the person you're with. And I said, well, that's, you know, that's simple enough. That's easy. I'll do that. And he said, oh, really? Well, that's what I want you to do. And he said, that's enough. And I said, how is it enough? And he said, if you do that, he said, you'll change the world.
That's what it's all about there. Jesus said to me that our purpose for being here on this earth is to learn to love, and that is one of the most important things, that if we love one another, everything else will be okay.
I was told very clearly what our purpose is, and your purpose is to love. It's that simple. Hard to pull off cleanly, but you are here to love. And I'm not just talking about the warm fuzzies. Most people, when you say the word love, they think warm fuzzies. Love is a far more multi-dimensional, complex thing than just the warm fuzzies. It's very obvious. Everything is made out of love. Made out of it. Like, this is love. This is an expression of God's love. And if you don't like the word God, use whatever word you want.
The world we live in right now, I was told, is like a classroom to learn to love. Not only ourselves, but to learn to love others as unconditionally as God loves us. Now that might seem to be a very simple thing. You think, okay, I can love. I love inside, I can love other people. That's not easy. Think about the people in your life. Are they easy to love? Heck no. I can tell you, my own children sometimes are difficult to love, right? They will present some of the greatest challenges on earth for you. The family that are right there in your unique little ripple will teach you the most in this life. And that saying that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Absolutely. And you know that that is true in your life as well. The teacher always appears when you are ready. And it's usually a challenging person. Someone that's just going to make you grit your teeth or shudder every time you're around them. You pass the test when you love them anyway. That doesn't mean to be a doormat. It doesn't mean that you lay down and let other people walk on you or scrape their feet on you. What that means is, because you can distance yourself from them, but what it means is you look into their soul and you see who they are. God's creation. You hate the deed, but you do not hate the sinner. You've heard that expression.
I personally have no big plan other than to be loving. The only fly in the ointment is that I thought it was going to be easy, and it turns out to be the hardest thing that I've ever done. Because it sounds so simple, but it's really difficult. It's easy. It's like easy for me to love my mother because she was a really nice woman and she was a very loving woman. So not hard to love someone who's really good and really loving. But what do you do with someone who's difficult or actually really nasty? I mean, those are hard people to love. And what does it mean to love someone? I mean, sometimes to love someone means you need to incarcerate them. And that's not like a lot of fun. Sometimes loving someone means you have to put as much distance between them and you as possible and tell them to never call you. You know, that's not a lot of fun. I mean, loving people sounds so simple, but it's very difficult.
I mean, there's this whole great big universe. Universe. I love that because una means one and verse means song. There's this one big song, and each and every one of us have a part to play in that, a part to sing, and I sing at a tone that's far different than yours, and every tone comes together in the perfect melody, the perfect harmony, and it's already happening. We don't see it because we see ourselves as separate, but if we realized and stepped into the oneness that we already are and sang our song so brightly and shined as we do, it's like the stars. Everyone has a different twinkle, but when you look at that Milky Way and that galaxy, you say, wow, look how beautiful it is collectively, look how beautiful the stars are individually, and that's how we are. We're already that. There's nothing to become.
That by my being, I simply was expressing absolute love and connectedness and unity and harmony with all of existence. And I was adding my particular and absolutely unique note to this grand song of life that reverberated throughout all existence.
So go in the direction of your joy and bliss. If you don't like something, move in the direction of something that gives you joy and happiness. Tell someone that you appreciate them, that gratitude amplifies your life and anger and hatred dampens your own light. So part of my message is reminding people to turn on their lights. So if you are listening to this, turn on your own light and find something in this world that gives you excitement and happiness and go in that direction.
And as we're reviewing a specific instance, let's say it was one in which I got really, really angry and upset because something that happened somebody did something to me that really, really made me angry. And the life would say to me, well, look wasn't that really a waste of energy? You were so angry for something that in the long run doesn't make any difference. Because in the long run, both you and the person that you're really angry with are going to be in the light anyway. You're just experiencing something that both of you chose to experience. Wow. So as we view all those things, we started to laugh at how serious I was taking life. Now, come on, Andy, really now.
And in that life review, I was able to feel for myself the way we would feel for our own children. And I had this compassion for myself where I wanted for myself to be happier and to do better, not as in, get the higher grade, but just to be happier, that kind of better. Like, have fun, lighten up, it's okay, and things like that.
I was still looking for joy and peace out there somewhere. Who can bring this to me? Tanya, if she could just love me enough to make me feel okay, or if the boys could just love me enough to make me feel okay, or in my job, or whatever else I was grasping at to feel like I was wanted and I was loved and I was okay. Even though I had been in the arms of God and felt perfect, but I was still looking for it for an outside source. In fact, I was wandering around thinking, where's all that love I felt here? Where will I ever find it? And the key was when I finally looked within myself instead of looking out there. When I finally realized, oh, to love unconditionally, I get to love myself unconditionally. And when that happened, the healing began. Because I was never going to find it out there. It had to be felt within. And even in my Christian upbringing, this Jesus fellow said, the kingdom of God is within you. Don't look out there for it. And I began to maybe grasp what that meant a little more, that it is within us. We are divine beings. We do have the power to create our own situations if we embrace ourselves that way and do so.
And I was having a pretty good day when I died. The sun was shining, the skies were blue. I didn't realize that I would end up in an ICU at the end of the day. One of the first things that happened to me is I was greeted on the other side. I was greeted with the words of, "Welcome, beloved one. You are blessed. You are honored." The first part of our reading this morning talks about that. If we had any understanding of how honored we are for being here, doing what we're doing, living the struggles that we live, and the joys. Think about a rock star, a world-famous scientist, a preacher that's known throughout the world, something or someone that you look up to with such reverence, and that pales in comparison to what they feel for us and how honored we are in their eyes. And if we could carry that with us here every day, how much different would it be?
My mother had been watching for me my whole life. And, you know, there were some things in the 60s I wasn't so happy that she might have seen, but she didn't care, because there's no judgment there. There is no judgment. None whatsoever. That's the second most important, or one of the most important things I learned. God does not judge us. I was there in the heart of God, which is what all of us are. I had returned to the heart of God, and I knew that I was not judged at all. Because God knows when we're down here on earth, playing in these little human play suits. It's sort of like those things we dress our kids in when it's cold, and they're all bundled up, and they have boots, and they have socks, and they have idiot mittens and hats and scarves wrapped around their heads, and they're like, you know, they know that that's what it's like, pretending to be a human, which we all decided we would pretend to do. So if one of your kids is all dressed up like that, and you say, "Here, feel this, doesn't that feel interesting?" They can't feel it because they got mittens on. So they make mistakes. They think, "Oh, maybe it's this, or maybe it's that," and they might guess about what it is because they can't really feel it because they're muffled. And of course, that's how we are as human beings. We're muffled, and we can hear our guidance, and from inside and from outside, and we can, try to understand what it's trying to tell us, and we can try to act accordingly, but it's all muffled. So we do our best, and sometimes we don't do so well. Some of those things in the 60s especially. But there's no judgment. There's none whatsoever. My relatives were all just happy to see me. They were so proud of me, and I'm like, "Well, I haven't done anything." They were proud of me. Just getting up every single morning and trying again. Especially on the days when it's been bad. They were so proud of me. What courage it took to do that. What courage it took to be on planet Earth, pretending to be human, pretending to be separate, willingly muffling our connection to all that is, pretending that we're flawed and limited. What courage that takes. They were amazing. And I'm standing there like, "Well, I've never done anything important." They said, "Oh, you've done the most important thing that exists."
Others who have had NDEs talk about the incredible, indescribable, unconditional love that they existed within when they were out of their bodies. And I experienced the same thing, but for me the phrase unconditional love, it doesn't work very well for me. For one thing, unconditional is a condition, and I'm very literal. And aside from that, the word love in the English language is pretty sloppy. You know, we love everything from French fries to our mothers. So I'm going to try to describe this feeling using different words. In this non-physical state of being, there's a profound sense of belonging. Everything about everyone that exists is not only accepted, but admired, respected, recognized, and celebrated. There's a cooperative, co-passion for being that permeates everything that I experienced. Everything there is effortless. It is just so easy. It's blissful, and it's filled with a joy that is so fundamental, it's only really remarkable from outside of that state of being. So imagine that everything you have ever thought, imagined, experienced, dreamed, or created was recognized to be valuable. To you, yourself, and to everyone else, to all that exists. Imagine that no matter what you do or how you express yourself, you belong and are valued. This is true. What was known to me, what was so basic as to be assumed, was just that we are each intrinsically valuable. And everything we experience matters, not just to ourselves, but to each other and to all that is. I use the phrase all that is instead of God, source, universe, whatever. A lot of those words have just personal connotations that limit my ideas. And so when I say all that is, it includes all that is. So that's the term that I'll be using. My experience is that we're always within and expressions of all that is, which is a beautiful force of infinitely curious and creative energy and awareness. How can we be anything but perfect? We are all that is, just as much as it is us. We are created by it, it creates us. We participate in it, it participates in us. We extend it, and it extends us. We are each individual expressions of the single infinite awareness. We are one, and we are each perfect, exactly as we are. We're so used to thinking in terms of hierarchies. The healer is more important than the addict. The teacher is more important than the arms dealer. These hierarchies of value are not real. I don't care how dull or weird or messed up we think our lives are here in the physical world. I can assure you that all of us are having a valuable experience. And I don't care how special we think we are. We are each uniquely special, every single one of us. Our experience extends and enhances everything that exists. We are each infinitely creative beings, having an amazing experience just by being here. From the perspective out of body, it was understood that it takes some skill to even exist in the physical body, in the physical world. It takes a skill of focus to maintain consciousness within a physical body, and then to participate in a collective, cooperative, creative experience of being in this physical world. So we're all amazing. We're all jet pilots flying 50 feet off the deck, upside down. We are very cool. Just by showing up here, just by showing up.
And I'm watching this fragment of energy, and I could feel this love and kindness and compassion enter from the back and go out through the solar plexus. And I just felt the most complete love, and the voice began to speak with me. And it was at that moment I realized I was having a conversation with God. It wasn't the man in the beard and the staff. It wasn't any of that. It was energy. It was love. It was compassion. And I got to look down at Mother Earth, and I could see all the atrocities that were being done to our planet. I looked down and I could see pharmaceutical companies making drugs that cured cancer, but yet created 3 more diseases. I could see our politicians, not just in America, but all around the world. We were voting, putting people in power who were so eager to take their power away from us for the name of profit and greed. Over and over and over, I went from country to state to towns all over the world watching a corrupt system that was about to happen and was already happening. Think about that. Our power going to people who use it against us. Sounds pretty current today, doesn't it? Over and over. Then I saw the abuse of the animal kingdom. Dolphin, bear, sea lions, walruses, cats, horses. Over and over, I could feel inside of me such compassion, but there wasn't judgment, you guys. There wasn't, look what they're doing, and how dare they do this, and how I wasn't angry. I would step back, and I could feel compassion. And I also, when I was reviewing my own life, there wasn't judgment on my part. Peter, you should have been better. Why did you do that? How dare you do that? It was like, you could do a better job, Peter. I was kind to myself. And as I watched event after event after event, poverty, wars, all the stuff that we do to each other, to the planet, it just didn't make sense. And I said, no more, no more. Do you want to go back? The voice said. Do you want to go back? And I have to be honest with you, I'm in this place of peace and harmony. And it's not that I'm going, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. I was just, my mind is like, I'm floating. I feel great. I feel amazing. And again, just the abuse of the planet. But then something spectacular happened. Something amazing happened. I got the chance to see what I call the unsung hero. I got a chance to see doctors, nurses, teachers, housewives, vets, all those people doing deeds that no one else knew about. No one else knew what was going on. Just they were doing their job and doing the right thing because it is the right thing to do. Over and over in my consciousness, I kept feeling, you do the right thing because it is the right thing to do. Ask yourself that. Ask yourself that. Doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Because sometimes what I saw on the other side, I saw myself, I don't want to use the word failing, but just not shining.
There was a picture placed in my head of a memory of my original agreement of why I had come to earth to begin with. And it was like I remembered and I went, oh, right. Right. I think one of the things that I've thought about greatly is that one of the things that bothers me so tremendously about the metaphysical movement, in lieu of my experience, and in lieu of what I was shown, which I think if there's any message that I can give, it's not about meditating and leaving your body and taking your light being out of this earth. Indeed not. It is about bringing the light into this earth. Stay here. Be an anchor. Let the light come in through you into this world. Don't abandon this world. We need you. We need you here. We need you to be present. And we need you to be open with an open heart.
But the reality we're living towards is a lot bigger than we can imagine. But that's also been a long tradition. The Catholic Church often mentions these things through saints who said it's completely different. And that's also been my experience. It's completely different. It's a lot better. And nothing can go wrong. If I want to summarize this whole jumble, we're talking about 20 years of thinking and processing. If I could be able to summarize this in one sentence, a sentence that carries weight, other sentences, however, seem very weird to me afterwards. Nothing can go wrong. And what does this mean? Your life? Of course I know. Due to my job, I'm confronted with cases where things go wrong badly, and that there are things that cannot be answered, that you might ask yourself, where is God? There cannot be a God. Thinking about God as a person, well, that's all very difficult, but in the end, I can still sum it up as nothing can go wrong. And this is life-changing.
I think my greatest joy in having had this experience is to let people know that we are cherished unconditionally, that there is no judgment on us in any way, that the universe loves us and is supporting us, and we are here to grow, yes, but it's about playing, it's about joy, it's about loving. It's not about fear, it's not about pain, it's not about judgment. Only those things were created by us and our ego. There isn't anything in reality other than love. And that is the gift, is that we are loved, and there's nothing to be afraid of on the other side. And there's nothing to be afraid of in living either. And I think that's my story, is live to your best ability. Have the greatest joy that you can for yourself and others.
You are all precious and beloved. Don't ever forget that. And everything that you do does matter to somebody else. Find out whatever it is that you do well and do it. Give to the world, give to your neighbors, give to others, because you have it within you. Everybody does. That special talent, that special gift.
I do have hope for this world, even in times like this, because there are a lot of people who have love in them. It may just be contagious, and it may affect the other person, because love is actually proven to heal. Love always wins, because it's where we came from. Everyone has talents. Everybody is useful for something. Somebody might be an artist. They can draw so well. Me, I was really into music. So I would try to use that as a positive thing to try to help people through tough times. Maybe they can listen to my music to get stressed out. Somebody might be a good cook. We all need food. You know, they have chefs, the most professional chefs. That's a talent. That's a gift. Somebody might be a great speaker. Everybody has talents, and everybody's useful in this world.
I believe that we are beautiful spiritual beings who are here for a very, very brief time in these clay vessels to learn lessons for our souls and to learn how to love one another better, to learn how to treat each other the way that God wants us to treat each other. And then I think we move forward. I believe that we are here with great purpose and on purpose. Do not think for a minute that you're an accident. And you were born to who you were born to. And you were with people that you are with now as a great divine plan. We learn from our families a lot sometimes that we don't want to learn. But they are teaching us as hopefully we are teaching them. I believe we're here to take care of the earth too, and all the animals, the plants, everything. And when we do that, my patients teach me that it's not about getting an award. It's not about getting a pat on the back or applause. It's because it's our duty and a really wonderful opportunity. You see, all those who tell me of their near-death experiences say they want to contribute in any way to make a difference in whatever their life has left for them here, in whatever little town they live in, whatever community, whatever business they're doing. And they love sharing their story, and they don't care whether you believe them or not. That does not matter to them. That's not a big deal to them. Doesn't matter, because they're safe in their stories. They love their stories, and it's all good for them. And I never tire of hearing another one.
If I only had a year to live, what would I do? If I only had a year to live, what would I do? And when I ask myself that question, I often write, then, what would I do? And that gives me direction and clarity. Okay, this is what I need to focus on. The other thing that I ask myself is, if I died today, what would my biggest regret be? Now, if I walked out of here today and I got hit by a car, what would I regret? For years, for me, one of those things was, if I die before I get my book done, I'll really regret that. And it motivated me. That question motivated me. And the final question that I ask is, how do I leave people? Think about this morning when you left your house, or the last time you left loved ones. How did you leave them? Did you tell them that you loved them? Did you hug them? Did you argue? Because if that's how you left them, they're going to carry that, as Garrett so wisely said, for eternity. They're going to carry that argument. As a grief counselor, I know that how people leave each other can be very traumatic later. So pay attention to those urges and tell people how much they mean to you. Author Norman Cousins says, death is not the greatest loss in life. The greatest loss in life is what dies inside of us while we live. So pay attention to what you desire. Garrett spoke beautifully to this lesson at 17. He said, don't leave anything unsaid. Tell people what they mean to you. Take risks. Do things you've never done before. Have a tremendous amount of fun. And don't worry about the future.
All we have to do is just love God with all our heart, and the way we do that is love each other unconditionally, because God is in every one of us. So when I'm loving you, I'm loving God. So if I'm not loving you, I'm not loving God. And so love God with all our heart, love each other like that, learn how to love unconditionally, and take care of this planet. If we all did that, we'd have heaven on earth right now.
So I said, what was my purpose? And this voice said to me, the same as every man. You were put on the earth to take care of the earth. And come to find out later, Adam did tend the garden and keep it. Even before the fall, he had work to do. We as men are here to take care of the earth. It's one of our responsibilities as men. And that was very personal. He said, you're not to strip mine the earth, you're not to pollute the earth, you're not to destroy your home. And I was being indicted because I was responsible. I was a litterer. I was one that didn't care about nature or environment at all. And this was a beautiful home that God had created for me to live and enjoy. And he said, secondly, you're here for the animals. They look up to you. You're the one with the spirit. You're the one with reason, with intelligence, with the strength to change things, the ability to protect them and take care of them and do for them. They don't have that ability. And yet you destroy species after species. And I knew that I was responsible, partly responsible. I had hunted for sport. I had no concern for animals. I never showed any compassion for animals. I didn't have any compassion for animals or men. And he said, thirdly, and most importantly, you're here for each other.
People need to realize that perhaps getting to death is not going to be a great
fun thing to do. No one wants to look forward to death. But you can look forward to what's on the other side. It is such a beautiful feeling. I feel that we have such an amazing experience awaiting us, and that we don't end. Our consciousness continues on. So even though we shed that wetsuit of a body, you have a beautiful outcome awaiting you after the point of death. So don't fear it. Look forward to it. Change your life to also include a lot of love and a lot of helping others and focusing on good things, because those people who've had a near-death experience and gone beyond mine, that had a life review, often report that they feel what the other person felt when they were dealing with people throughout their life. So I think that all of us should kind of aim towards a good life review. So do good things. Go out there and have a happy life. Enjoy it. Enjoy every day, and find ways to be happy, because that's what we're here for. That's what our experience is for.
Death is a beginning, Ken. It's beautiful. There's the light. It's love. It's more beautiful. It's, if you really love somebody, you've got to be happy for where they're going. It's an adventure, and they're not alone. See, we're afraid of somebody being alone, but they're not alone. They aren't.
And not only not alone, but it seems like they're surrounded by this sort of atmosphere of love that it's very difficult to leave once you encounter it, isn't it?
It's beautiful. It is just as though, you're being held in a cradle of love and just being carried through the most beautiful, magical story God could ever create. And it's, I just can't explain it. It's marvelous.
So God swept me and showed me all of earth. And in showing me all of earth, I saw that the length of my life was the wink of an eye. And timelessness, time has no meaning. And I saw every human being on earth individualized. And I saw them loved in the same way that I was loved in heaven. And God said to me, in the way that I love you now, you know that I've always loved you. And it was self-evident to me that God's love is the size of the cosmos, the billions and billions of years that the universe has existed. And the greatest love I'd ever experienced in my life was a speck of dust in comparison. The immensity and infinite love of God is unbelievably overwhelming. And that's the love I'd always been loved with. And I knew that to be true. And I knew that every single human being was loved in the same way. But the difference between the human beings and me was that they couldn't see. They were still in the world with a veil, not knowing the immensity of love. Couldn't know it. Not built into the structure, but still loved nonetheless. And God showed me my parents in particular. And I could see their faces, and I could see their suffering. And God said to me, all will be well with them, because all has always been well, and all will be well, and all is well, because I love them. And you know this to be true, and I knew it to be true, that in the end my parents would no longer suffer, because in death they would be immersed in the ocean of love.
Money is not who I am, and none of it is who I am. If I really get in touch with, I'm not the car, I'm not the house, I'm not the job, I'm not my partner, I'm not the shoes or the clothes or anything else. I am all of it. I am that I am. I am the divine. I am me, and me is enough just the way I am. And I can be my contribution in this universe without even trying, by just simply being. Just being me.
Be as you can be. Shine your light as brightly as you can. Embrace your uniqueness. Just realize who you are, get to know who you are, love yourself unconditionally, and just be yourself. And with those 5 things, I invite you to go and live your life fearlessly.